Hi, my name's Alfie. I'm the Information Officer of the Hunt Saboteurs Association and one of the founder members of the Hunt Saboteurs Global Network. I've been involved in direct action, especially hunt sabotage and political campaigning for over 30 years. When I was 17, I first encountered a traditional English fox hunt. I've been trying to stop the hunters ever since. For the last 3 years, I've been working with activists in Europe and North America to support existing groups of hunt saboteurs and to form and train new groups. I've also been researching hunting, especially within the European Union, and I believe that there is a strong case for European Union legislation to ban some forms of hunting. Obviously, I'd like to see all forms of hunting. Seem to have a slight technological problem there. Obviously, I would like to see all... Bear with us a moment. Okay. Try that again. Yeah, okay. Right, obviously, I would like to see all forms of hunting banned, but a ban on hunting with hounds would be an achievable first step. Laws about hunting with hounds vary considerably within the European Union. As you can see from the display on the board there, those countries in green are those where hunting is banned. So I'm very pleased to say that Germany was probably the first country in Europe to ban hunting with hounds. The countries in red are the bad guys. They're the ones where hunting with hounds is really common. Now, the Commission of the European Union was asked whether it intended to legislate to bring in laws against hunting with hounds. But, and this is the wording of the inquiry that was made to them. As you see, it's rather long-winded, I'm afraid. But down at the bottom here, it says, can the Commission explain how it intends to ensure that the principle of animal welfare is observed with regards to hunting with hounds? Their reply was just quite staggering. Right, this is Article 13 of the European Union treaties that allow the European Union to operate and actually make legislation that works in different countries. And as you can see, they're trying to claim that they can't bring any legislation on hunting with hounds because it's not within their competencies, that they're limited to agriculture, fisheries, transport, internal market, research and technology. Now, what's so strange about this is that there are plenty of European laws already in existence which aren't within those competencies, right? So the EU is perfectly capable of legislating outside those things mentioned in Article 13. For example, we've got the EU directive on birds. That's clearly nothing to do with agriculture, fisheries, transport, internal market and so on. Right? We have the EU directive on fauna and flora. Again, it's not covered by the things that Article 13 mentions, and therefore the argument that we can't legislate on hunting with hounds because it's not within those competencies under Article 13 just doesn't work. Oh, there we are. In fact, if you read Article 13 really carefully, and I've highlighted a bit in red that I thought would be of most interest to a group that I'm assuming is predominantly vegan, the EU recognises that animals are sentient beings. Now, of course, sentient, as we know, means that animals feel not only physical sensations, such as pain, but also feel emotions, such as happiness and fear. Now, I've been around hunted animals and the hunters for a very long time. I know the fear that the hunted animal suffers. I'm sure you're all very empathic people. If you're vegans, you're going to be. Imagine what it must feel like being chased by 50 dogs that are intending to kill you. Imagine that fear. And every hunted animal feels that fear. They are sentient beings, and the EU recognises that. But strangely enough, they're saying they only recognise that sentience when it concerns agriculture, fisheries, and that one's a real laugh, by the way. Last year I was part of a research team from the Hunt Saboteurs that went to Scotland. We found plenty of European Union funded fish farms. Bear in mind, Article 13 says that the EU recognises sentience as far as fishing is concerned. Those fish farms hold anything up to 78,000 fish in each pen. Within each pen, about 10,000 fish die of starvation because they're too small and too weak when they're put into the pens. So 10,000 fish out of every 78,000 simply starve. And yet the EU claims to recognise sentience as regards to fisheries and then continues to fund those fisheries. So they obviously got their priorities a little bit confused. Another issue that I know a lot of people around here have spoken to me about today, the European Union funds the farms that provide the bulls for bullfighting. Now again, That's farming, it's covered, it's agriculture. The EU claims to acknowledge the sentience of those animals and yet permits them to be used in that way. So I think they've got their priorities a bit messed up personally. Right? And also the other crucial point here, and the reason that they can legislate, although it says they will recognise the sentience of animals within those areas of policy, it doesn't say that they can only recognise the animals within those areas of policy. They can legislate outside that. And if they are going to insist on sticking within those competencies, well, there's a very strong case that lots of hunting counts as agriculture. Many of the hunted animals are farmed. Pheasants, grouse, deer, boar, all of these animals are farmed and then released so that they can be hunted. So if the EU can legislate to do with agriculture, they can legislate on hunting on those species that are farmed to be hunted. So why should the European Union legislate to ban hunting with hounds? There are many, many forms of animal abuse prevalent across Europe. Farmed animals suffer. So do the victims of the animal testing laboratories. I'm sure that we all look forward to the day when all of these practices are ended, but we've got a long way to go to convince all of Europe that an animal-based diet or biomedical research are unnecessary. We might know they are, but there's a lot of people out there that won't believe that just yet. A hunting ban is a far more attainable target for the reasons I'm about to explain. And I do apologise for these photographs. Some of these are going to be really distressing to you. You have to remember that I've been a hunt stab for 30 odd years. I've seen this at close range. I've heard the animals scream as they die. Hunting with hounds is insanely cruel. And this is permitted in some European countries. This is a stag swimming for its life with a pack of hounds behind it. It didn't make it, by the way. And this is common across Europe. Two dogs being pitted against each other to see which one can kill a hare first. It's just truly awful. I can't describe how bad it is when you see this and hear it at close quarters. Now, obviously, I've been a hunt stab for a very long time. A lot of the terminology of this is my everyday language. For a lot of other people, I do realise that some of the terms are going to be unfamiliar, so I've just thought I might kick off here with some descriptions of what some of these things mean. Hunting with hounds is what's viewed as a very traditional English hunt. Right? You may have seen images of this. Lots of people wearing red coats, lots of people wearing black coats, on horseback. A pack of 50 or 100 dogs chasing one little fox across the English countryside. Does happen in other countries too. And this is what we would refer to as hunting with hounds. The coursing is that horrific image you've just seen. This is two hounds, usually fast dogs, chasing after rabbits or hares. Right? The winner is the one that kills the rabbit or hare first. Flushing to guns is really common across all of Europe. Right? It's not so much in England, but way across the rest of Europe. This is using dogs and people to drive animals out of the woodlands where they live into the path of the gun so that hunters can shoot them. Right? So this is flushing to guns or a driven hunt. And all across Europe, gun dogs are used. The hunters will shoot, especially birds, and then the gun dogs go out and retrieve the bodies of the birds that have been killed and bring them back to the hunters. And finally, the most horrific one of all, the terrier work. Terriers are small dogs. They're designed to be put down into the holes where the foxes and the hares and badgers live, and then they'll get into a face-to-face confrontation with the hunted animal. We know that both animals will probably suffer horrific injuries in the process. The hunters then dig down to where the animals are fighting underground, dig out the fox or the badger and kill it. Alright, so that's terrier work. And some image of that, right, this is hunting with hounds from England. As you can see, the hunter there, the red coat, revelling in his kill. He's holding the body of the fox that his hounds have just killed. They love doing that. They're so sick, they even find those hunters who've never seen a kill before, and they take the blood of the fox and they smear it onto the faces of the hunters that haven't seen the kill before, usually children, of course. Hare coursing. So we know that almost all of the hares aren't killed outright. Research shows that most of the hares are just horrifically injured by the dogs and then have to be killed by the hunters breaking their necks afterwards. This is the driven hunt or flushing to guns. So you can see that poor wild boar running for its life. There's a line of huntsmen with high-powered rifles waiting for it. The gun dogs and the terrier work. Right. So, how many people actually go hunting? Right? I keep getting told hunting's really common in Germany, but I'm very, very pleased to say that Germany was one of the first countries to actually outlaw hunting. Right? It's been illegal to hunt with hounds here for a very long time. The other forms of hunting still exist, but as you can see, only 0.4% of the population here actually hunts. It's a tiny, tiny number. Right? And there's a strong correlation between those countries where hunting with hounds is illegal and very low percentages of the population actually involved in any other form of hunting. In these countries there are no actual laws about hunting with hounds, but the practice of hunting in the English sense doesn't really happen. But other forms of hunting are still very common, particularly the driven hunt. And these countries are the worst. Right, these are the countries where hunting with hounds is fully legal, widespread, and you'll notice the correlation here. These are countries also with very high percentage of the population involved in other forms of hunting. The Irish really are the bad ones of Europe. 8% of their population, it's a tiny population, only about 4 million, but 8% go hunting, mostly coursing actually. I was actually asked when I said I was going to do this presentation, well, why come and do a presentation on hunting with hounds in Germany? Well, partly because it was one of the first countries to ban hunting with hounds, and as I've said, there are a very low percentage of people doing other forms of hunting here. But it might surprise you to know that there are still registered packs of hunting hounds here. There are lots of drag packs. They're allegedly not chasing and killing things, but there are still registered packs. And I'm intrigued, is anybody actually policing the action of the foxhounds and beagle packs in Germany? Is anybody checking that they're not actually killing wild animals? The ones in England where it's illegal certainly carried on. Right. And then my home country, United Kingdom, where we're just confused. Right. We have different laws. There are 4 parts of the United Kingdom. England and Wales have one set of laws. Hunting with hounds is illegal. The Prime Minister's about to try to change that next Wednesday, try to make it legal again. In Scotland, hunting with hounds is illegal, but they're allowed to use a full pack of hunting hounds to drive foxes out so they can be shot. And in Northern Ireland, hunting with hounds is fully legal. So we can't even get the law right between the 4 parts of our own country. And unfortunately, even though hunting with hounds has been illegal for 10 years, the police have done absolutely nothing to enforce that legislation, and it's still been down to hunt saboteurs and other activists to try to catch the hunts hunting illegally. Now, the figures I just presented on the percentage of population in each country who hunt, those are from a very pro-hunt organisation. Right? It's the hunter's own organisation. 500 million people live in the European Union. Just 1.3% of those go hunting, and yet they seem to have absolutely unlimited powers in many places. And of course, in many places they have massive legal protection as well. In lots of countries, you're not permitted to stop the hunt from coming on your land. If the hunters want to hunt on your land, you've got to let them come on your land. In many countries, public forests are simply closed for the day so that the hunters can go hunting. So everybody else who might want to walk in the woods is not permitted to, so that the hunters can go there. Anti-hunt activists in many European countries are persecuted. Right? In many countries, including large parts of Germany, it's actually illegal to sabotage a hunt. Right? It's certainly illegal to interfere with the Hubert's mess, the church services for the hunters. So these hunters have got this massive legal protection, this tiny number of people, just 1.3% of Europe's population, and yet they seem to have an ability to do what they want. In England, 80% of the population is actively opposed to hunting. If you put it to a vote tomorrow, 8 out of every 10 people would vote against hunting. And yet the Prime Minister next Wednesday will almost certainly make hunting legal in England again. And of course, it's not just the hunted animals that suffer with hunting with hounds. Right? In England alone, 11,000 hunting hounds are killed every single year. Most of these are puppies under 1 year old. the hunts breed far more puppies than they need to replace the hounds that have become too old to hunt. Of course, they kill the ones that are too old to hunt anymore. They breed lots and lots and lots of puppies to replace those. Any puppy that looks like it isn't going to make it, they simply kill it. And this might make you cry, they kill it by simply smashing its head on the concrete floor of the kennels. The quote from the huntsman, the 10 cents it costs to buy a bullet is too much for a puppy. In southern Europe, the position is even worse. In Spain, the figures I'm getting from the Spanish activists, somewhere between 50,000 and 100,000 hunting dogs, known as galgos, are killed every single year. The methods are staggeringly barbaric. At the end of the season, they're hanged, they're shot, they're drowned, they're poisoned, or they're just simply starved. Right? And that's Spain. 50 to 100,000 dogs every year. We know the position is exactly the same in Italy, in Greece, in Malta, in Croatia. So you just add up the numbers of dogs that are dying across southern Europe as a result of what the hunters are doing. Every single place that you find dogs being used for hunting, those dogs are abused by the hunters. Right. I believe that the European Union has got an absolute moral obligation to act on this issue. Now, we can win on this. The people of Luxembourg have just voted for a 1-year ban on hunting with hounds in their country. There's a massive campaign running there to make sure that ban stays forever and that the hunts will never return to Luxembourg. There's a huge campaign. If I wasn't here in Germany this weekend, I'd be joining thousands of activists across the United Kingdom trying to fight off the Prime Minister's attempt to re-legalise hunting next weekend. There are thousands of us out there on the streets in England this weekend fighting that cause. Right. We can win this. Right. We've got to win this. There's a petition been launched by one of the Luxembourg activists. It collects over 100,000 signatures in the first few days alone, asking the European Union to ban hunting with hounds. That's a massive number of people. If everyone gets on that petition site and signs Alex's petition, if we can get millions of signatures across Europe, they're going to find it really difficult to ignore us. I come here today because, as I say, Germany was one of the first countries in Europe to ban hunting with hounds, right? And I'm really hoping that together we can work together, and between us we can actually make the EU really listen and ban this horrific practice right across Europe. And that would just be a first step. And once we ban the hunting with hounds, we go on and close down all the rest of the horrors that you've seen on the screen today. Thank you. Anybody got any questions? I've actually got 10 minutes left. Did I talk too fast? Yeah.
Wait a minute. You get a microphone.
Yeah, be easy for you. We'll get you a mic. It's coming. Huh?
Hello. Okay. Thank you for the nice talk. I was wondering, you have to condition the dogs actually to perform these horrific things, I think. So this involves a lot of training on that side, which is also violence against the dogs. So what can you tell us about that? So can you rehabilitate them? Is there a way to, when you actually ban this, then some way to treat these dogs, or are they like psychologically destroyed forever, or what is the status with that?
Right, the way that the hunters train the dogs is incredibly harsh. Right? For starters, they are taught to fear the whip. Right? So from when they're very young, they will be beaten with a whip and they will know the sound of a whip. Right? Hunt saboteurs, of course, never ever use a whip on a dog. We use the noise of the whip to tell them to stop what they're doing. Right? So we'll never harm the hounds. Now, the hounds come into a hunting pack when they're about 2 years old. Right? All the young hounds that are born that aren't looking like they're going to be good hunting hounds are killed before they reach that age. So only the ones that are quite promising will actually join the pack when they're 2 years old. Then they have to be trained to kill foxes. This is not something that they do naturally. So they have a process called coupling, which means that they put a new, young, inexperienced hound with an older, more experienced hound, and the older dog trains the younger one. They need something to practice on, so this is the bit of the year that hunters really hate hunt saboteurs seeing, because they train them by killing fox cubs. So from August onwards, when the cubs are 4 months old, They take the hounds into the countryside, they find where the foxes are in the little woodlands, and they put the dogs straight on them. There is no chase at this time of year. It's what we call a chop, a kill without a chase. And it's the hardest thing for a hunt saboteur to stop happening. But this is how they actually train the hounds to be killing machines and get the taste for foxes. Once they're fully trained, obviously, then you have they're into the main season. They hunt in the traditional way. Yes, of course, foxhounds can be rehabilitated every so often. I don't know how, but the hunters lose a dog, and hunting hounds are very, very friendly. When we're actually sabotaging hunts, one of the best techniques is to be in amongst the hounds, and you simply start stroking the dogs, and the next thing you know, you'll have 50 dogs all looking to be stroked and loved and fussed, because in the kennels they receive no affection. So if anybody wants to give them affection, they love it. And I know a few people who might possibly just have ex-hunting hounds in their houses. No, they're lovely, friendly dogs, so they can be rehabilitated.
Thank you for your presentation. I do understand the situation concerning the dogs, which you presented here. But actually, if I'd be a fox, I wouldn't care if I'm hunted by dogs or not by dogs. Do you have any figures or estimation about how the population of foxes has changed, for example, in Germany, since hunting by dogs was stopped?
No figures at all, I'm afraid. No, I don't know whether the population...
What's your feeling? What's your estimation on it?
What we do know is that in England, the banning of hunting with hounds made very little difference, because the hunters simply switched to shooting in those areas where they wanted to keep fox populations low. Now, of course, this is predominantly where there are pheasant shooting going on. So around where they're breeding the pheasants and grouse, they want to kill the foxes because they view the foxes as vermin. But in other areas, we keep catching the hunters breeding foxes so that they've got something to hunt and chase. So hunting with hounds is a pleasure activity. It's nothing to do with controlling the population. In fact, as we know, in places they're having to artificially increase the population because they've killed so many, they haven't got anything left to hunt. So I don't have any hard figures on what fox populations are. What I will say is, all wild animals, the population is limited by the food supply. There is never any justification for trying to control numbers, because it will settle to natural levels. You're welcome. Anybody else? One quick last little thing then, because everybody always seems to love this little bit. What hunt saboteurs actually do, of course, is we want to get control of the hounds. And what we do is we nick the techniques that the huntsman uses. So if the hounds are going one way and we don't want them to go that way, we use a hunting horn to try to get them to come to us. And because I've been talking and my throat's really dry, I probably won't be able to do this. Very poor, right? So that's the noise of the hunting horn. This can draw the hounds to you. If the hounds are chasing a fox, they'll know the noise of the whip. They've been taught to fear this since they were tiny puppies. Now we'll say we'd never ever hit a hunting hound, but they know this noise. And that noise means stop what you're doing. But best of all, my favourite little toy. Right, this little tiny box is very light, fits in your pocket. When a hunting hound finds a fox, it will start to cry. And it will start to chase the fox, and it will make a noise, and the other hounds know that that hound has found a fox and is chasing it, and they want to join in. So what you do is you play that noise and you run very fast, and the next thing you know, you have 50 hunting hounds following you and away from the fox, and then you've won.